Honestly, yeah.
Are you seriously? Are you staying with us tonight or what?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys made me feel bad. No, I'm just. I'm honestly fried. I've been sitting in this chair for the last 6 hours and 15 minutes. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Five Idiots Talking Toys. I'm Shane, and we're here with our Collectors Podcast. Thanks very much for joining us. You can be listening on your favorite podcast app or joining us in the video show on YouTube. We appreciate you. Please subscribe to the channel, comment, let us know what you think. Let's bring the boys in right now. We've got John. Charles is not here. Faked you out. Brandon and Christopher is here.
Hey,
Hey-o.
How you doing, guys?
Hi.
what's going on?
So
Hi.
Good.
we have a show. We talk about
We do have a show.
collecting. Yep. So modern, vintage, different lines. We all collect a little bit of different stuff, but we all kind of our bread and butter is vintage Star Wars, right? What is the topic for tonight? I'm going to throw it over to John. John, we try to think of different topics within the collector community, within the collector hobby. I feel like inevitably everybody ends up being a buyer and seller. You know, everybody would love to trade as well. It's kind of fun to trade. I've found it extremely hard to trade, and it ends up not being worth it. You know, if you have something you want to go, give up, just sell it. If you want something, just buy it. It ends up being a lot easier. But everybody ends up being buyers and sellers just because it's fun to have things go in and out and get some new stuff. And you can't keep everything. We've all learned. So what's tonight's topic, John?
So tonight's topic is selling to a seller. All the different aspects of that. I mean, I've had experiences a couple times here recently that people don't want to sell to people who resell the item. I don't know if it's some attachment they have to what they're selling or whatever, but I've noticed that a lot with people when I go to look at a collection or when I go to look at just one or two items. They don't want to sell to a seller, and I don't understand that hang up. Because once you've released an item into someone else's possession in exchange for money or goods or services, it's not yours anymore.
So let me kind of, I'm hearing what you're saying. Let me kind of throw a question over in Chris's direction. Do you think that just at the face value, that might have something to do with, a random person, a given person might just feel like they're kind of getting taken a little bit, or maybe they're not getting as much as they think they could get somewhere else if they find out somebody is a reseller. Like they might just inherently think like, oh, he must be lowballing me because I know he needs to make money or something. Something like that, you think?
You are 100% correct. I think they automatically think that you're going to lowball, you're going to offer half the value, you're going to lie about their value and say it's only worth X, and then you offer this. And, definitely in the world of Star Wars, some of the bigger known sellers are known to do that, to do just that, which I'm sure they do this in every hobby anyway. So I'm not just going to, sit here and pinpoint Star Wars, but, they do tend to offer a lot less, but it sucks because it kind of hurts all of us because they automatically assume that that's how we all are, and it's really not.
What do you mean? What do you mean they offer a lot less? Like, are you talking percentage wise? Like, are they trying to take advantage of somebody and offer less in the situation, or what?
To answer this question directly, I was offered a collection, let's just say a year ago, and at the time, I thought I was the only person that was looking at it. I didn't know anything about it. So I priced it out. I gave him an offer. I want to say it was like $24,000. And he came back and he agreed instantly. So after we agreed, I said, okay, great. This is good. And then he was like, yeah, I actually sent it over to one other person and they offered me 13. I go, 13? So I literally offered almost double what the other guy offered, and there was still, there's still plenty enough room to make what you wanted to on that lot. I was able to keep some nice pieces, trade some pieces with with some friends of mine, and it ended up working out. But when you're offering, like I said, 50%, 40%, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think, and I think everybody is somewhat familiar with the show Pawn Stars. I'm kind of a later arrival to ever watching any of those episodes. They put some on Netflix, and sometimes I just need something to throw on in the background that I don't need to watch the storyline or something. So I've seen a bunch of episodes now, and I know that there's been memes over the years, of somebody comes in and offers, wants to sell something that's worth a lot of money, and they go, I'll give you $3 for it, or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's like the running joke, because then when I did watch the show, it's kind of true. They offer like 30 to 50% of what something's worth, because they're like, oh, I have overhead. Now this is different. It's a store. It's a big business. They have employees and stuff, but that's the mentality is what I'm getting at, is that anybody who watches a show like that has been kind of beaten in the head with, if you sell to somebody who is a seller, a reseller, they are going to tell you 7 ways to Sunday why they have to give you less. But that's not always the case.
Here's the thing. It's
comments.
All right.
I have 2 comments on that. First of all, that show is fake. Shane.
Yeah.
And second of all,
it's just like Storage Wars. It's fake.
Second of all, those people, if you walk into a store, you already know that they're going to resell an item. So you already have to have that built in. I don't know how, obviously all of us sell on a Facebook group, Rogue 5 Toys. But not everybody knows that if John, finds somebody that's selling a collection on Facebook Marketplace, let's say, or whatever, and says, hey, I'm interested in your collection, can you meet up and I can take a look? Sure. John walks over there or drives over there, and all of a sudden, that guy that he's buying the collection from doesn't know that John owns the store unless he's upfront about it, And if the guy walks into John's store, separate scenario, if that guy has a collection and walks into John's store and wants to sell it to John, that guy automatically knows that John's a reseller because he's got his own store. So they have to, they have to know that John's not going to pay 100% on that, because he's got to make money and pay the bills.
A big part of that, though, is that how many items are actually in that collection that the person is selling. If a person is selling a collection that has like hundreds of items or even thousands of items, that's more work that you have to do, whether it's cleaning, pictures, listings, shipping it all out. So, a person might offer a little bit less than they would if it was 20 items and really easy sells. Like, for instance, if you get Stormtroopers and listen, Stormtroopers sell very easy. I think we all know that. Everyone loves a loose Stormtrooper. If you're getting a bunch of loose Stormtroopers and Boba Fett's or whatever, just easy stuff, there's been times I've offered 90% just to make 10% on something, because it's like, all right, it gives the page some life, it's some inventory, you're still making a little bit of money, and it's easy sells, so why not?
Yeah, my margin's a little bit deeper now since I do have overhead, and I know that that's an excuse and everything. But when I look at something now, I have to say 60% instead of 80 when it was just me in my basement.
Yeah,
but still. If someone wants to sell something on eBay, they have to list it. They have to take photographs of it. They can't take they can take a photograph of a whole collection, but they're not going to get top dollar for every piece that they want to get. And I went to close to here. A friend of mine was selling a collection, and I told him up front, I said I can't offer you more than 80% of what the value of it is, because I'm going to sell it. I can't offer you more than 80%, but I will offer you 80%. And he's like, oh, well, I said, or you can just put it on eBay. You can spend time taking pictures. You can put it on eBay. You can wait 7 days to sell it. And then you can wait a month to get paid. less than what I'm going to offer you.
Yeah, and you're still paying 15%, which is fees and stuff. So
Yeah.
he's maybe making an extra 5% for all that work.
So, a toy shop that I know of, a guy walked in and recently, a couple days ago, with a collection and approached the owner and said, "Hey, I got all this stuff. I need some quick cash. What do you give me for it?" And he looked at all the stuff and he was like, "This stuff that sells pretty good, like I can probably offer you 30 to 40%. And the stuff that doesn't sell, like 10 to 20."
What?
And the reason, and he's up front the whole time, because he's like, "I've got so much inventory right now." He's like, "I've got collections walking in the door every day." And he's like, "And I've got so much stuff that I can't offer you full price right now because I just got too much stuff to sell." So he's like, and it was mostly modern stuff that
Oh, okay, yeah.
wasn't gonna. Yeah, it was all modern stuff. It was
gotcha,
Legos and modern, like a couple NECA figures and some Comic-Con exclusives or something like that. And he was mark tape on that one, John. So it was all loose stuff or all box stuff, but it was all modern. And he was up front with him, like, "Hey, the stuff that sells, I can give you 30% on. This other stuff that's going to sit for a while, I can do 10 to 20%, you know?" And he's like, "Honestly, your best bet is to go on eBay and sell all this stuff if you want top dollar for it." But he's like, he told him the same thing. You're going to have to take pictures. You're going to have to ship it out. You're going to pay 13 to 15% fees on stuff. He's like, "It's not worth it, you know?" So he's like, "Take it or leave it." He's like, "I'm always happy to have inventory, but right now I've got so much stuff that I don't need to have it." He told him all that same stuff, and the guy still was like, "Okay, let's do the deal." So
Yeah. Well,
some people are desperate.
yeah.
People don't have to like resellers, but at the end of the day, when certain people are selling collections, there's only so many people that are going to come in and buy everything at one time. And most of the time when people do sell, they don't want to piece it out. They don't want to do section by section. They want someone to come in and buy the whole entire thing. And there's been more than enough times where I've had to buy the whole collection, and some of it I didn't even want. Some of it I knew it wasn't worth it. Some of it I knew was going to sit, and it just was just going to be very, very hard sales. But it just comes along with the collection that they want someone that's going to come in and buy everything, and that's why they call me.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts I had there as I'm listening to all of you guys. First off, yeah, there's a big difference, and I'm not a store owner, but I mean, I've seen these scenarios. I've watched some shows. If you have a store, if you have a physical location, the other thing is not only your overhead, but it's also how long are you going to sit on certain things, like Brandon just said. If you buy a collection, you're going to pick out some things that are going to sell easily and some that are not. But in general, all of it's going to go, either in a storeroom for a little while or on a shelf. Let's just say there's a shelf space, right? It's going to go on the shelf. It's going to sit there.
Space is money.
Right. And now Chris, the way he does his stuff is, he only gets stuff that he knows that he can, put on Rogue 5 Toys, put online as one of the groups and sell it, keep some of the stuff, trade some of the stuff with friends and sell some stuff. He goes about it a little bit of a different way. John's going to have to consider that with the new shop opening up, that he doesn't want to buy something that he's going to sit on for 10 months. He's out that money while that item sits there and doesn't sell. Chris is targeting a specific audience with things he thinks will sell. When you have a shop, it's different. The other thought I had, I'll throw it to somebody else. I have to remember what my other thought was, but that's a big factor too. If you walk into a store.
Yeah. And I think that the stuff that I wouldn't be able to sell on Rogue 5, there's some things that I wouldn't be able to sell there because people just don't want it. I think is eye candy for foot traffic at the store, so
yeah.
Some stuff is big, not easy to ship, too.
Yeah, that and Power of the Force 2 figures, they're priced at a level that people who are either new to collecting or just kind of toying with the idea or just for nostalgia's sake come in and go, "Oh, that Boba Fett's only $8. I'll pay $8 for it."
Yeah.
Because if you go to a flea market or if you go to a like an antique store or something, have you seen the prices of some of those Power of the Force figures at antique shops?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They think that they're in that 2001 price guide or the 1999 price guide that Chris had. You know, they think they're those prices still.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point because a lot of people don't want to pay shipping on an $8 figure. I mean, you're paying
No.
75% of what the figure's worth just for shipping alone.
Yeah.
So I do the same thing. There's a store that's a couple blocks from me, actually, that it's a comic shop, and they have probably the biggest selection of Power of the Force 2 figures. They have a whole wall full. And those are the ones that I like to get signed. So I'll just go there before I go to eBay and see which ones they got, pick out the mint ones or whatever when I know there's a signing going to happen, and I'll just get those signed. And then very rarely do I turn to eBay for something like that, because why am I going to pay shipping on a $5 figure when I could just get it down the street, you know?
Yeah. And I think the stuff that's going to sit on my shelf in inventory is stuff I'm going to be selling on Rogue 5, you know, the vintage figures. I don't know how many people are going to buy vintage figures. I don't know. I don't know what the market's like here in Chattanooga. I know that my meager collection is probably the largest selection that people have in Chattanooga for vintage figures, but I know I can sell those online. You know, let's just kind of get people in the door, generate some interest, stuff like that.
So for instance, like there was a collection that was offered to me a few months ago, and he actually listed it on IC Deal or No Deal first, and you know, you're listing 110 loose graded items. How many people are really going to be interested in buying 110 loose graded items?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
There's not many. So, you know, he didn't get a lot of action. Everyone kept on telling him to price it out, and his comments were always, I don't want to price it out. He's overseas. He wanted to sell it as is. So he reached out to me, and the first question he actually asked me is, are you a reseller? And I said, yeah. I said, you know, I run my own group of course I'm going to be reselling this. Who's going to buy 110 loose graded items and think that they're going to keep all 110? I said, am I going to be keeping some? Yeah, I kept 8 of them. I said, but for the most part, I'm going to be selling these. Like, no one's going to come in and buy all 110. So then he's just like, all right, you know, I really don't want to sell to a seller. Yada, yada, yada. So then all of a sudden, like 12 hours later, he just hits me up and he sends me pictures and he goes, well, what price would you offer me? Let's just start with this. I offered him a price. It was 30% higher than he got on any of the forums and any of the groups. And he just goes, oh, wow, that's great. He goes, okay, deal. That was it. Simple. Nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
You know,
he thought he was going to get screwed.
Thought he was going to get screwed.
And that's the deal with everything. I mean, drove 4 hours to this little hole in the wall in Alabama. I mean, it was like I drove down this gravel road for 2 miles, no lights or anything. And there's this old lady that had a shed full of like Star Trek figures, Batman, you know, the Toy Biz Batman superheroes line, Star Wars, everything. But it was precious to her, right? So she was like, and at the time, you know, yeah, I sold some stuff on the IC, but I wasn't like a seller or anything like that. She said, are you a seller or a collector? So I showed her my collection, you know, to convince her that I was, you know, that, I mean, I wasn't trying to be subversive or anything like that, but just to convince her that I'm not doing this so I can, you know, make a ton of money
hurt you. No,
yeah.
Like, we're not here to hurt you.
No. And I gave her an offer. She accepted the offer. And, you know, we're both happy at the end of the day. She made some money off of stuff that was just collecting dust in a shed. And
well, what it boils down to, though, is, you know, it's easy to say, but it's really true. What does it matter? You know, I understand that. I mean, the one reason that we've brought up so far is price, is that, you know, you kind of think, oh, I'm only going to get 50%, you know, at most. But at the end of the day, if the buyer and the seller are happy with the deal,
what does it matter?
Take the sentimentality out of it, because you know what? You had this stuff in a shed for 20 years. Um, you don't it doesn't you don't need to know whether it stays together for the rest of existence or not,
Yeah,
or it gets
exactly.
broken up and goes to different people. In the end, they're not going to a landfill. They're not going to in the they're not going in the garbage. They're each of those pieces, even if they're broken up, are going to somebody who is a collector who is going to enjoy them. That's what you
Exactly.
want, because you're somebody who, is either done with the collection or you've inherited it from, someone else, a family member, and you're not interested in it. So just be happy it's going down the line to a collector is what I say.
Yeah, I'm not trying to buy your memories. I'm just trying to buy your item, So
I'm trying to buy your plastic.
People can.
So I mean, there's different ways I approach it as a collector seller. So I don't look at this as a business. I know some people that have brick and mortar stores, and I'm not saying you necessarily, John, but some people have a business and that's what they do, and that's how they make a living, is out of their toy store. I know Chris, this is his job now, so he does this for a living. I, fortunately don't have to do this for a living. It's just a hobby for me. So I'm a collector seller. So that's what I tell people is I use the money that I make on certain items that I buy to fund my collection. And, and that's how I go about it. Obviously you can't keep I tell people, you can't keep everything. Like I just bought a few things the other day off some guy, and 4 or 5 of the items, I'm like, I can't keep all this stuff. I have to move it, and, I'll keep a couple of things. Like Chris kept a couple of the graded items, but like, who's going to keep 110 graded items? It's just, you can't do that. So
yeah, and that actually
about it. I just be upfront and be like, I buy stuff to fund my collection, and I'm going to sell some of these, but I'm going to keep a few as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, John, that was actually my other point that I've kind of forgot about in the moment, and Chris already spoke to it, but I'll just say real briefly, that was the point, is we're basically talking about collections here. We're not talking about a couple of action figures. I mean, you can sell that 100 different ways, and that's kind of not what our point is here when we're saying some people are a little scared off to sell to sellers. So we're talking from small collections to large collections. But when you start getting into the medium to large collections of anything, of modern Star Wars, vintage Star Wars, Ninja Turtles, Motu, G.I. Joe, I mean, the idea that you're going to find somebody who is just starting out to collect that line and is willing to drop, probably thousands of dollars to get a big lot at once, it's a needle in a haystack. It's a fairy tale. It's not happening, because the person who might actually need all that stuff down the line, if they've got serious about that line of collectibles, is not going to jump in that deep end of the pool right off the bat. They're going to go slowly. And that's also part of the enjoyment of collecting is going slowly, finding the pieces. And no one jumps in and buys 110 of anything when they're just starting out collecting that thing. So if you want to sell, you've either got to do the work and go to the places where you can list those items in small groups, in lots, or individually, or you're going to end up selling to somebody who's going to break it up and sell it. That's just the way it works.
You have to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work, that's what you're going to be doing. And that's why it's whether you love them or you hate them. For the most part, I've always gotten good feedback on all of my deals that I've done, because if anything, I was helping them more in the long run than I was anything, because there was different circumstances of some collections that I picked up. One was a wife whose husband passed away, and he was collecting for 30 years, and it was sitting in his basement. He didn't, she has no idea what she's doing with this stuff. This guy just collected for 30 years. He had tons and tons of stuff. Can someone just walk in and screw her over? Yeah. But luckily, I don't do that. Yeah, of course. But luckily, I don't do that. And she wants to sell the whole entire thing to one person. That was me. Who's going to have $30,000 to buy it? Me. So I did that. And then another person, their nephew was let's just say a very young kid. He was sick with cancer, and he needed to sell his stuff to raise some money, to help him out. And you hear that story I'm not going to offer 40%. I'm literally giving like top dollar because I wanted to help him out. So I ended up buying the collection. Unfortunately, the kid ended up dying. I still made a very large donation to their GoFundMe, actually in the name of all of us. I never even told you guys that, but I did it in the name of all of us. And I still talk to them. I still talk to them, to this day. So it's like we help out just as much always with people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and
No, that's very nice.
speaking as someone with and I never knew you did that. That's awesome that you did that. But speaking as someone who does now,
Only 4 of us, right? The 4 of us.
Yeah,
Not your
Carl's
brother.
unclear.
I did the 4 idiots. Yeah, the 4 idiots.
The 4 idiots. But speaking as someone who now has a brick and mortar store, I don't have any expectations of this being something that's going to be my career. I want to do this for fun. I want to do this to keep the doors open. I want to do this so people can come and see stuff,
Talk,
or
hang out,
buy stuff that they can't buy, or hang out. I hope that we sell stuff. I mean, we're going to be selling other things besides finished toys, but I hope that we sell enough just to keep the doors open, and it's a place for people to come and have refuge and see some really cool stuff. And
Like a cigar lounge?
No cigar lounge.
Well,
no.
I heard that John is giving out free Red Bulls for anyone that comes and hangs out. So
Yeah, opening day we're gonna have free Red Bulls. Hopefully, we'll be open by the time this airs. Oh gosh, but
Well, it's not easy these days. I mean, especially it's not easy, in general, to keep us, a local vintage / toy shop open.
Yeah.
Historically in the last, 10 years. But now the economy is, just kind of
yeah,
in the dumps right now.
just when I decided to pull the trigger on this, is
Are
when
you
everything
admitting
started
to
going down
that,
the
Shane?
toilet.
Oh yeah, man. We'll discuss that off the air.
yeah.
But that's a realistic goal. That's like, I understand where you're coming from. You want to have a place to hang out and have fun, but you want to keep it, just get it going and keep the lights on and keep the doors open and have some fun with it. Anybody who had the idea to make a business or a career out of that, man, that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's you're going about it the right way is what I'm saying.
So the shop down the street, the guy's had it open for 7 years, and he used to be a big collector. And I asked him when I walked in, I said, "Hey, you still collect any of this stuff?" And he said, "Yeah, I used to," but he's like, "But I sold everything. I sold my collection. I sold all this stuff, or whatever." And I'm like, "Really? You don't collect anything?" He's like, "Not really." He's like, "It doesn't really." He's like, "I love this stuff. This is why I have a store, and that's where he gets his income. But he doesn't collect anything because it's just, I think it's gotten to be too much for him." And it's just like, why collect it when it's in here or whatever? And it's to him, it's a business now, not so much a collecting thing anymore.
Well, you do know the old saying when they always say a drug dealer should never do his own drugs.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same thing. It's like I collect, but then I also sell. Now, am I thinking I'm going to do this for the rest of my life? No, of course.
Yes.
No. I don't really think I don't really think that was the plan. Like I said, I was at my last job for 19 years working nights, off Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights. It was just a schedule. It was just working nights, always working doubles and triples, not seeing my kids, having another son that was just born. I was like looking down the road and I was just like, I don't want to like miss out on all my kids' stuff. And I was like, if I could do this for a couple of years to get me by until something else happens, then at least I'm home with them every day watching them.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I'm taking it. And if it lasts longer, it lasts longer. Great.
Yeah. Well, we've all seen in different groups or different groups, depending on what you're collecting that we might be in. You see somebody come along, and a lot of times it's somebody popping into a group, kind of for the first time. looking to sell a collection. Either they weren't in the group or they were offline before with their stuff, or it's a family member coming on and saying, hey, I got this whole pile of stuff. But you've seen that question before. What's the value, or where could I sell this all together, or blah blah blah. And the answer is always, well, you can get a lot more for it if you break it up and do the work yourself, or you can sell it together and you're going to get a percentage. You're going to get a lot less for it, is basically what people say. And that's a decision you have to make if you have stuff to sell.
I have actually one good question. I want to know if any of you guys have actually experienced this. Have you ever got a collection in, like Brandon or John, and posted it online where people saw pictures, and then you have someone that tries to come in and buy the whole collection off of you? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, I mean, accessories, yeah.
Okay.
Turn into a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, obviously, I buy a collection. My job is to piece it out and sell it so I can maximize my profit.
Right.
I'll get hit up all the time, let's just say, for the loose graded items. I'll have a guy come in and be like, I'll buy 80 of them and I'll give you $50 a piece. What? Why would I do that? I'm the one who sourced this. I worked the deal out. I paid it. I'm going to put the work in. I don't want to sell you 80 pieces for 50% of the value.
Yeah, that's another thing with buying stuff like that too. Is like, there's one piece that I want. It's been on Facebook Marketplace for over a month, and the guy has ghosted me. I've talked about this before, but it's the Remco McDonald Land playset. He's got the whole thing, and I don't even want to,
McDonald's, as in McDonald's.
Yeah, they used to make these Remco used to make these figures.
The Transformers, right? Like they transform.
No, they're action figures. They're like really? 8-inch Mego figures. Yeah.
Oh, geez, I didn't know that.
They had Ronald McDonald. They had Hamburglar. This is 1978.
I just saw McDonald's playset thing for sale today at a toy show.
Yeah, that was probably it. Big red box.
Something like
but
that. Yeah.
Grimace, they had all the figures and stuff.
Hey, Chris, Brandon was at a toy show today.
Not shocked.
Not shocked. But he won't sell it to me. He's ghosted me, and I can't figure out why. And
send me the link. I'll buy it for you.
Do I?
Send me the link. I'll buy it for you.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I can think of is that he doesn't want to sell it to me because, and it's local, it's because he's seen that I have a toy store. That's the only thing I can think of because it's been on for a month.
Again, it's a stupid reason, because if you're going to give him the price that he wants, what does it matter who he's selling it to?
Yeah, and it'll probably never sell. Weird. And it'll probably never sell. I want it for my shelf. Yeah, it's a toy store as a talking point. I didn't know they made that stuff. Yeah, like you guys didn't know.
I was confused. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those like.
I know what you're talking about.
Those toys that transform from chicken McNuggets.
You're talking about
the hamburger, the Big Mac,
and the French fries, and and there was a little pancake. It was a pancake
The big breakfast. Yeah. Yep. I don't even know what those were, but they sold them in toy stores, right? They were actual toys.
No, I think
they were Happy Meal toys.
No, they were Happy Meal toys. They came out of McDonald's. Yeah, the Happy Meal toys.
I don't think so. I'm interested to know if I'm wrong, but I thought they actually sold them like in toy stores as toys.
They're Happy Meal toys.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I had them as a kid.
I came across them at a toy show recently. A couple of them, anyway.
I have all that crap buried in a box somewhere.
Shane went to a toy show.
That was like over this. That was over the summer. It's almost November now. Brandon
goes weekly. He
goes any day that ends in Y. He goes to a toy show.
I have never heard and seen of so many toy shows in my life that Brandon goes to.
I sent you a video. Did you see it?
Yeah, of course you did. That's what I'm saying.
He lives in the sunniest, nicest weather place in the entire country, and he only goes indoors. He's in an area where they have indoor toy shows in the nicest weather in the country every day. Your comment was so funny today. It's how many toy shows do they have every day in sunny San Diego?
It's ridiculous because I actually like look around here on Long Island. I'm like, I don't see any. When
There
are
was
they going
actually
on?
a big one this weekend for 2 days, and I just didn't go. I was just like, I have too much going on. It's just like
There's
not that
there's
important.
one in Vegas that I might go to here in a couple weeks, and
That's weird.
there's a LA Comic Con in December.
Yeah. All right, boys.
I'd like to go. Anybody want to come out and visit
The
Vegas?
LA.
The life of Brandon. That should be a whole other episode.
He'll be at the
If you guys
Beverly
need
Hills
anything at Disney,
Hotel.
let me know. I'm going soon too.
He's got a season pass to Disney and a season pass to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Work trip.
Yeah, work trip. All right, folks, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you. Comment, like the video. Let us know what you thought of this topic. If you're looking to sell a collection, or do you have a problem selling to sellers? Have you heard of that, before? Do you feel like, there's other reasons that maybe we haven't discussed? Let us know. We'd be happy to hear. If you're watching, or I'm sorry, if you're listening on a podcast app, we appreciate you as well. Come over to the YouTube channel and look at the other content we have. We have a lot of other videos that come out throughout the week, and that's it, boys. We'll see you again next Sunday and Wednesday in between.
Yep.
And that's it. That's all I have to say.
Another good episode.
All right. See you guys later.
Thank you. Later.
By the way, my daughter, I showed her randomly 5 endings of episodes because she didn't believe me that we said bye. She was cracking up.
Brandon goes, bye.
Bye. Bye. Pee, pee, pee.